Hello and welcome to the Football Breakdown. It's the Fantasy EFL preview show for Game Week 5 with myself, Matthew South. Yes, it's just a solo pod this week with me as both myself and Ian are away. I've managed to grab a few minutes to record a quick podcast though, and then Ian will be back with you next week for a solo one himself while I'm away again, and then it will be back to normality the week after. No intro music as well this week, as for some reason the Riverside app does not let me import the audio sounds. So kind of having to make do with just an audio recording this week. So apologies for that. But yeah, going to dive into a recap from Game Week 4 very, very quickly. So myself managed to pick up 55 points, another above average week, but heavy lifting by Jack Sanders again, and a Chesterfield win. A few average point returns there for Kerr, Price, Woodburn, and then Stansfield, Tucker, and McGillivray not really bringing much to the board. Bradford kind of unlucky with that late goal on my front to ruin that away win for them, but is what it is. The 1-1 draw still seems to be the most frustrating thing in this game. I can almost take a loss more than a 1-1 draw, just knowing that any other draw is worth 2 more points. But oh well, yeah. Ian's team last week was only 41 points, so below average week for him, even though he did have some good point scorers in Norwood and his sub-point pick of Benarouz. But both of his teams, Hull and Ipswich, lost, so it was a 0-0 on that front. Our Football Breakdown team, which was made up of the highest point scorers the highest selected percentage players, like the complete inverse of our sub-point picks, that scored 65 points last week. It was a pretty good week. It beat both myself and Ian again. Sanders captain, but then Goodman and Lowe with decent points returns there, and Birmingham and Stockport as well doing the business on the team front. Pretty solid one. My team is 3 points ahead of that Football Breakdown team right now. So yeah, I'm trying to extend that lead here this week. Overall, then looking at the Football Breakdown League table last week, Byram and then the name cuts off on the app really annoyingly. But the Byram team at the top, 94 points. With Dunkley, Sanders as captain, Norwood, Cabia, Hadji Wright, Coventry, MK Dons, Alsop, Ethan Pye, just a really good team all around there. And I do believe that Elwright is fourth overall at the moment as well. So yeah, absolutely smashing it on that front. Good to see someone from the Football Breakdown League, doing so well on the overall front too. So yeah, that's kind of the quick Game Week 4 recap, and going to dive into Game Week 5 this week. It's just myself. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to run from goalkeeper to forward and try and cover maybe a few players, one maybe not necessarily one from each league, but just cover a few players for each position who I think are worth considering this week. It's just a full standard game week. Everyone's playing once in all 3 leagues, so there's nothing to home in on, and the fixtures, there's a few interesting features and nothing necessarily so standoutish in my opinion to completely home in on as well. So I think I'm going to try and cover as much as possible in the short space of time we have. So let's start off in goal in the Championship. I think just looking down, I think Vitek for Bristol City could be an option. I do like that Bristol City whole game, but I'm going to come to it a bit more later. So Vitek for myself isn't going to be an option, but I do think he could be a shout if you don't have any Bristol City players in your team. Similarly, Balash Toff for Blackburn, off the back of a nice clean sheet last week. They have been pretty solid at the back. Like the Birmingham game at home, they kept Birmingham out for 89 minutes and then conceded 2 goals in the 90th and 97th minute to lose that one. So I do think there could be an angle in a Blackburn clean sheet, but they're at home. They're at home to Norwich, but when you have Josh Sargent on the other team, I don't really want to back the clean sheet, so that's what throws me off there. So yeah, Championship not really the one for keepers for me this week. League One, I think, is where we're going to get the heavy lifting goalkeeper. I think Nathan Trott certainly looks to be a great option this week. He's been superb. He's yet to concede a goal for Cardiff. Really good 11-point return with 7 saves last week in a 1-0 away win at Luton. It's 4 clean sheets in 4. He's made 11 saves in those 4 games too. Although most of them did come last week. So we've mentioned Argyle as well on the podcast. Like, away from home, there's still nothing that's we can really use to say that they're going to be better away from home than they have been over the last 2 years. Like, they did score twice at Lincoln, but they were 3-0 down before they found the net. So you could argue something there. I mean, I was at the game. I do think Argyle played better than, well, in the first half at least, they played good enough to not be losing, but it's still, the fact is they're not finding the back of the net away from home, and they can't seem to keep the ball out of their own net. So they did have a win last week to perk them up, but you still probably favour Cardiff in that game. So I do really like the Trot pick there. Seen a few Lotutala picks as well for Doncaster. They're at home to Rotherham. Rotherham do look quite poor going forward, although I did try and get against that last week and they scored twice, so that was frustrating. They do have a few new attackers in who certainly could liven them up going forward, but I do see why Lotus Tower could be in a few people's teams in League Two then. And again, like, I'm not the biggest fan of him as a goalkeeper, but McGillivray is hard to overlook. It's just the clean sheet option, but I've said before, like, for me, a goalkeeper, it's trying to find the 7 points, because the very few keepers actually go over the 7. Like, the more saves you have to make, the more risk you are of conceding a goal. You obviously get players like Trott with his 11 last week, where it all comes together. But if you're aiming for saves over a clean sheet, that's a big mountain you have to climb to make up those missed clean sheet points, which is why McGillivray, I think, is just a really solid option. There, I also, if I had to go for another, I'd probably say Glenn Morris away at Oldham for Gillingham. Ainsworth, Gillingham are just very stubborn at the back. They've kept 2 clean sheets already, but both of them did come at home. Away from home, they've conceded 1 goal to Accrington and 1 goal to Tranmere. So, it's certainly not bad on that front. Oldham's starting to settle into the division. I still feel like Gillingham are good enough to go there and keep a clean sheet, though. So, yeah, potentially Morris on that front. Into League Two, into defence now. Back up into the Championship, and the player I'm going to talk about now is Rob Atkinson for Bristol City, which is why I kind of skimmed over the Vitek pick, because I kind of want to talk about Rob Atkinson and Bristol City right now instead. So Atkinson, well, Bristol City, they've drawn their last 2 games, 0-0 and then 1-1. They had a really good opening day victory at Sheffield United. Hull, meanwhile, lost 3-0 last week to Blackburn. Didn't look very good coming to this one. Haven't shown much attacking intent either. Like, they did score 3 goals at home to Oxford in what was just a bizarre game of football, and both those teams, like Oxford, don't look that good. So, not really taking too much from that, other than they beat a team who aren't very good in the Championship right now. Hull failed to score or really do much to trouble Coventry away from home on the opening day, and similarly, Bristol City's home game against Charlton, they kind of did hold them at arm's length a bit. Charlton did have a couple of chances, but nothing to make me feel like they were peppering the Bristol City goal, for example. So I do kind of like this matchup. Atkinson himself has been the standout defensive bonus point defender for Bristol City in those 3 games. His 10 clearances, 2.88 tackles per 90, which is good for 3 bonus points. 1 for the 2 tackles, 2 for the 8 clearances. So, we're we're exceeding those numbers as well. So we're kind of hoping to maybe catch a few more bonus points there if Hull do show a bit more to them. And also I think there's an interesting angle going the other way. He's yet to have a shot so far this season, but when he was on loan at Portsmouth last season, he scored twice and provided an assist. And then if you go back to the 2022-23 season before he had his 2-year injury, basically, he had 4 goals and 26 in the Championship at Bristol City. So I don't think we're yet to really see that side of his game, and I do think it will come. And when you have players like Twine and Knight who are capable of delivering, you're certainly eventually going to get chances, and Hull look quite weak. So I'm liking the look of Atkinson this week, and he's only 0.6 picked. So if you are looking for potential differential pick this week, then I do think that's a way to go anyway. Elsewhere, I mean, I do like the Coventry away at Oxford matchup, so Van Evik and Bobby Thomas I think are good shouts on that front. Also, depending on where you're falling on the Sheffield Wednesday saga at the moment, there's certainly a chance for Cabango, Key, Burgess for Swansea, away at Sheffield Wednesday. But yeah, Championship's an interesting one. I do feel like everyone's kind of favouring lower league defensive picks right now, a bit more data to go from. In League One, I think it certainly looks like it could be a tough week. Jack Fitzwater for Exeter. They've not kept a clean sheet. Well, they've kept one clean sheet away at Wickham. They've not kept a clean sheet at home yet, though, this season. And Fitzwater's points, there's a lot of he's made a lot of clearances, but there's also the goal in there, which is doing a lot of lifting too on the point front, which I'm always a bit wary of because someone like Fitzwater hasn't been much of an attacking threat before. It doesn't mean like that goal is almost for a defender now. That goal's worth 8 points, so it's almost a quarter of his points so far this season have come from that one goal. Which does concern me a little bit how repeatable that is. I do like the look of Ryan Johnson away at Bradford for Wimbledon. He's had 2 double-figure point returns. Like when they keep a clean sheet, he scores really well. I think the thing is like when they don't keep a clean sheet, he hasn't had too high numbers. But then opening day against Luton, he did lose points for the own goal. Otherwise, he would have had a 7-point return without a clean sheet there, which is pretty good going. He doesn't have too much attacking output. It certainly didn't last season, but last season he was really good on the defensive bonus point front. He was someone who I was regularly picking or regularly circulating around, especially when kind of did a bit of the math last year, and from game week 10 onwards or something, he was one of the best point scoring defenders if you took out those first weeks. So he's someone who I do think gives you the points. Similarly, I think Nathan Asimwe started really well for Wimbledon, so has that attacking intent as well. We're playing wing back. He was unlucky not to get an assist last week. His cross led to the Stevens goal, but I think Wimbledon player nudged it onwards. I feel like he would have got the assist if there wasn't that touch on it anyway. So at least he's creating the chances. They should come. And then Stevenage at home to Wickham could be a good way to score some points too. Piergiani and Charlie Good, both very good for clearance numbers and defensive actions. I think Piergiani's leading the way on clearances there, so would probably be my where I'm leaning towards. Good to get a couple of assists recently in a game, which is pulling his points above Piergiani right now. But I think overall, you probably back Piergiani. He was such a big player last year as well. So, but then League Two is where a lot of the big names are coming from right now. Obviously, you have Jack Sanders in defence for MK Dons. He's at 86 clearances overall so far, which is 17.8 per 90. It's good for 4 bonus points alone on that front, and 1.8 tackles per 90 is just shy of another point as well. He's the top scoring player in the game so far. They're at home to a Walsall side who have failed to score in 2 of their 5 games, whilst MK have kept 3 clean sheets in their 5 games. So Sanders, or if you wanted to go Offord instead, but I do think Sanders is just pulling away from him on the bonus point front. Then Shea Dunkley for Chesterfield, 12.8 clearances, 1.2 tackles, 0.8 blocks. He's good for 3 bonus points and rounding, we're on track for a potential another bonus point here and there on the tackles and blocks front if he can just grab 2 of those. They kept 2 and 2 clean sheets at the start of the season, but nothing since. But they've faced a Crawley side who have failed to score in 3 of their games so far this season, including both their away games. So I do think the clean sheet is definitely coming into play here. And then someone like Dunkley, who has a goal to his name, just like Sanders, is always going to be a threat in the other box. And then to round off the trio, as Ed Harrison pointed out to us on Bluesky as well, Adebola Aluwo for Salford. Big points returner, 54 clearances, 10 tackles in 5 games. He's also good for being a threat in the other box. He's already got 2 goals to his name. He gets a lot of shots, like shot chances in the box. So he's a very physical presence, and they have Cheltenham tonight on Friday night depending on when you listen to this, which can't be before Fridays. That's why I'm recording it. But Cheltenham, who Sanders grabbed the goal against recently, conceded 5 to MK Dons. They're pretty poor defensively. Aluwo could definitely get chances here. Right now, I am sitting on Atkinson, Sanders, and Dunkley, but Aluwo is really tempting me. I just don't know which one to bring him in for. I kind of want to keep Atkinson in there for the differential of the 3. Dunkley's 8% selected. Aluwo is 13.5 and Sanders 24.8. So it's a very heavily selected back 3 there. Tempted, do you go for the 2 big ones and then try and get the differential for Dunkley? Do I try and get the differential from Aluwo and take the first and the third most selected ones there? I think that's what I'm trying to decide at the moment. At the moment, Dunkley is in over Aluwo, though, basically. But I think they're the toss up. Can't really be getting rid of Sanders. I don't think it's almost too much of a risk if everyone else point scores. Into midfield then, and Championship, Scott Twine is the standout one. He's 3 goals and an assist, 3 interceptions, 5 key passes, 4 shots on target. He's just started the season superbly well. There's only 1 goal for the 5 Bristol City have scored that he's not been involved in. The only thing that's looking poor is that the home game against Charlton was just a 4-point return for an interception. But I think Charlton are going to be more stubborn than Hull were. I think Bristol City will get more chances against Hull. So, especially after their 3-0 loss last week, Blackburn showed that they can be opened up, and Bristol City will be looking to follow suit similarly in transition, and especially the way Struber wants them set up. This could be more suited to them than a Charlton side who are going to sit back and try and soak up pressure and not allow them to break through the transitions. So yeah, do like the look of Bristol City, do like the look of Twine in the Championship. Away from Twine, I guess in the Championship, I'm going to sound like a broken record soon when I just go a Coventry player. Torp and Rodoni. I had Torp in my team last week and took him out. Absolutely regretting that decision, but it is what it is. But yeah, I do like the look of both of those. Rodoni, we know how good Rodoni was last year and expect him to be back up there this year. And then an interesting note on Finn Azaz, who's just moved to Southampton. I think with Fernandez looking like he's going to move to West Ham, there's an immediate space in the team for Azaz to just walk into, which I think could be interesting. He's been signed in time to play tomorrow. So he played last week as well, so I can know he was a slow start to the season because he was injured in pre-season, but he does look fit, he does look ready, so he could just be put straight into the starting lineup. Definitely want to double check first, but if he is, then could be an exciting prospect for Southampton away at Watford. Into League One then, and Ollie O'Neill is the standout one for me here. He's gone from 0.1% like 2 weeks ago to 2.3%. He was 2.2 literally like an hour ago, so people are pulling him into their team. Just going to double check. Yeah, he is still 2.3 before he's gone up anymore. He's been involved in Orient's last 4 goals, assisting 3 and scoring 1. He has 2 key passes per 90 and 0.67 shots on target. He's pretty good for bonus points all round. He's a good attacking threat. They face the Northampton side, who have conceded 5 goals in their 2 away games so far as well. Their opponents were able to take 30 shots in those 2 games. So Orient will have chances here. O'Neill himself should be key to any creation and scoring of them as well. You know, they've got Connolly and Koroma, who look to be, you know, like, who do provide good options and good intent. Well, I keep saying the word intent today. They do provide the good attacking output for Orient, but O'Neill's that nice complementary player to then get all up. And yeah, just really like the look of him. He's in my team this week along with Twine. Those are the 2 I've gone for in midfield. But, you know, just having a look elsewhere, I do think League One is throwing out a few interesting games because Ruben Colwell was a good option. It's just, he's one of those players who is so good, but as kind of shown recently, like, he doesn't get rewarded. You don't get rewarded for just being a good player. You need to, like, have that kind of end product or pick those things up, like 3 key passes against Wimbledon, so he gets 3 points. Then 3 key passes and a shot on target against Luton, he gets 4 points. You know, like, when he's not scoring the goals, his points aren't quite there, so you do need him to have that output, which Cardiff have been a little short on, really. Like, they've been really good, but they've, you know, they haven't necessarily blown anyone away just yet. So I think that's what, you know, what we're kind of waiting for. And are they going to blow Argyle away? Well, last year they did beat them 5-0 in this fixture, so there's every chance they do that. So if you're fancying that, Ruben Colwell, of course, has to be an option for you. And then away from that, you know, you've got Luton are away to Burton. There's an interesting game. Barnsley and Huddersfield are facing each other, so it's a pretty tough one for the Barnsley midfielders, who have been so favoured early on. And yeah, it's just interesting around. You've got players like Jamie McDonald as well, 7 interceptions, 2 goals, although both goals came in the same game against Blackpool. They're away at a Lincoln side. Lincoln, I think, are solid. You know, I do think they're a decent outfit. Like, you know, I wouldn't necessarily be backing Mansfield to go there and win. And if you take away the goals, you're kind of banking on interceptions, and his interception numbers aren't mind blowing. Is my only thought on that. Interesting, Regan Henry got off the mark for Mansfield in midweek. He got 23 points, 8 points the week before, so can see him creeping into a few teams, but he's in the same mould in that Lincoln away fixture. In League Two, then, I think there's an interesting battle here between Duke McKenna and Mitch Pinnock, as Bromley host Harrogate. Duke McKenna, top scorer midfielder so far. He has 3 goals and an assist, 8 key passes, 4 shots on target, and an interception. He's basically scored every other game so far. So really, he's actually not on track to score in this one. But he is such an attacking threat for that Harrogate side, who don't really score too many goals. They did get the 3 against Grimsby, but it does seem like an outlier. They have 1 goal in every other game. Pinnock, meanwhile, seems to be doing everything but scoring. It's 11 key passes, 4 interceptions, 3 assists, 3 shots on target. Last week, 2 assists against Notts County. The week before, an assist. His interceptions have been pretty good. His key passes have been up there. He's on set pieces. Feels like the goal is coming too. And like the assists, when you have Cheek, Denanga, Kabamba, and whoever else up front for you, you know, like those will eventually come into play. So I like that aspect of Duke McKenna or Pinnock this week. I'll be interested to see who scores more. They'd probably be my midfield options in League Two. Quick one on Jays Cabia as well. He's missed 2 penalties now, so it's a -6 on that front. And if you think of a penalty, scoring the penalty is 5 goals plus the shot on target, so 6 points. There's a 9-point swing, so 18 points he's missed out on. Or 18-point swing he's had anyway. That would put him as the convincingly the top scoring midfielder in the game, but he's sitting there on 28 points total. So always in consideration because he plays up front for Grimsby. But yeah, we're kind of seeing the downside of penalty taker right now because it's costing us points on the misses. He's been in my team quite a few weeks. He's not in my team this week, but nothing really against him. Like he took 2 penalties in the shootout win over Man United in midweek, so he's not shying away from them. Scored both of his. I expect him to, if they get another penalty, to want to take it again. He looks like that sort of character. Really, really enjoying watching him. But I think Bristol Rovers is a tough game. I do think Rovers are I think they've started poorly. But I don't think they're like that bad a team. I do think they are a decent team, and once it comes together, they'll be solid. They they haven't conceded a goal in 2 games, so certainly have to take that aspect into it as well. There's my thoughts on the League Two midfielders. So I'll round it up then with the forwards. In the Championship, I do think Charlton, Coventry forward, obviously comes into this. My personal pick, Hadji Wright, think he'll be on penalties, scored a penalty in the cup in midweek. Just think he's got that dynamism that the others don't necessarily have, where I feel like he could be the poacher, but he can also score from, a goal he creates himself. I do like Mason Clark as well, and Thomas Asante started really well, but Wright is the one who would stand out to me on that front. The other name, Luca Curamgard for Watford, only 0.3 selected, 2 goals in his first home game for Watford, and now he's at home to Southampton. Obviously a tough game facing Southampton, but I do think that is an interesting fixture. I do think he's one maybe to keep an eye on going forward. In League One, I think the standout is Jamie Reid for Stevenage. 5 goals in 5 games so far, 2.28 shots, 1.24 on target, sitting at over a goal per 90 as well. It's effectively a goal every other shot almost. So really, really good, really good stats on that front. Wickham conceded 8 goals in 5 games. They allowed 17 shots at home to Reading last weekend. Dodds looks like he's under pressure. It's probably too early to look at the league table, but Wickham are 21st and they're travelling to Stevenage in 3rd place. Like, getting 3rd against 21st, I want to take the striker for the team in 3rd, and that's Jamie Reid for Stevenage. So I do like the look of him. Elsewhere, maybe Koroma. Obviously, I have Ollie O'Neill for Leyton Orient, but if you didn't, Koroma could be an option, or Aaron Connolly. I do think Reid is just standing out for me too much. In League Two, I'd probably say Callum Patterson for MK Dons. They're home to Walsall. It's Patterson has 3 goals and 2 assists. He came off the bench in the first game, so he didn't play. But since then, it's 37 points in 4 games for him. It's basically just shy of 10, over 9 points, 9.25 points a game on average right now. It's pretty solid. Like, also probably a tough opposition, but I mean, probably happy enough taking that. Away from that, Aaron Drinnan's 0.1% selected. Did think about him for my sub.1 pick. He's got 2 goals this season with Harry Smith out of the team. He's kind of going to get you expect him to get more responsibility up front. He's got a really nice goal against Shrewsbury last weekend. Only played the 17 minutes, and they have just signed Ollie Palmer, who does feel like a direct Harry Smith replacement on that like physical striker front. So whether that impacts Drinnan or not, we'll wait to see. And then the other one I like is Amari Patrick against Notts County. 3 goals, 2 assists in 4 games for him. 7 key passes as well, 5 shots on target. Just really central to that Tranmere attack right now, who, they've scored 8 goals in 4 games so far. They look a lot more exciting than they did last year. They look like a good team. Notts County obviously having their own struggling start to the season, I guess. They've only got the 1 win to their name so far, but listen, I think it basically depends on how you kind of rate them. I guess depends on whether or not you want to back Tranmere and Patrick or not. But yeah, I think Patterson's the one who stands out the most for me. I'm taking Jamie Reid though in my team, so my team looks like this right now. It's Dunkley, Sanders and Atkinson in defence, Twine and Ollie O'Neill in midfield, and Jamie Reid up front. And then my goalkeeper is going to be my sub-point pick, and I'm taking Kieran Slicker for Barnet. Now, Slicker came in and replaced Evans after the first game. Since then, Barnet then lost their next game, but after that they've started looking more comfortable in defence. They've kept 2 clean sheets in a row now, and they're looking more settled in League Two. Slicker himself made some good saves, but it's really the clean sheet, as I kind of said, that I'm after. So a team that's got back-to-back clean sheets, who are facing a Colchester side who have started pretty slowly, have lost 2 on the bounce and failed to score in their last game. I think there's a good angle here. In Barnet's last game, they limited Cheltenham to just 1 shot on target, and the weekend before they kept out the Swindon side, who have been been scoring for fun in pretty much all their other games. So I do like the look of Barnet. I like the look of them defensively, and I think a Colchester team who seem to be struggling in front of goal is something I can get against in my sub-point pick. So I'm going to take Kieran Slicker. And Ian has going to take Josh Edwards as his pick for Charlton, which is, I think, is an interesting one. Charlton look really, really solid defensively. Watched them last week against Leicester. They're away at QPR, who look like they have a good attack, but have a couple of injuries to their name and look poor defensively. So there could be an angle for Edwards going forward as well from wing back. I think it's an interesting pick for sure. So in Ian's team looks like this. By the way, it's Trott in goal with Sanders and Edwards in defence, McDonnell and Twine in midfield, and Wright and Sargent up front. And the 2 teams he has is Coventry and Grimsby to win. I also have Coventry to win away at Oxford. 12 goals in 2 games is just very hard to overlook for Coventry. After they blanked in game 1, they've suddenly turned into a prolific attack. Oxford have lost all 3 games so far. They conceded 6 goals in the cup in midweek as well, and the last team I think they want to face right now is a free-scoring Coventry side. So, want to get the away win. I'm backing 2 away wins. The other one I'm going for is Swansea away at Sheffield Wednesday. I do think Wednesday are better than people thought they'd be. They look quite solid, but I still think there's a bit of atmosphere around. There was rumours of unpaid payments again recently, and it's all just very disruptive to what's going on. I feel like I want to try and get against them while I can, even though they got a good win on penalties in the cup in midweek. I don't know. I do think in the league it's just a different manner altogether. And their last home game in the league, they lost 3-0 to Stoke. I think Swansea are good enough to kind of go there and get something. They've got 4 points so far this season. Good win at home to Sheffield United in game 2. They're good enough to kind of take advantage of this kind of atmosphere, this kind of crowd, and I think getting an away win for them would be good for Sheehan to kind of get a bit of confidence in. It's one of those where obviously 3 games in, there's not too much to go off of, but I feel like if they lost this, it would, people might be questioning that already. With the money, the signings they're kind of bringing in. So I don't know. I do feel like this is a game that Swansea kind of need to win, and I think they will win. So I'm going for Swansea for the double away. So that kind of rounds up game week 5 then. Sorry, that's just a lot of me talking on this one, but it's all kind of redo of a standard week. So no, thank you all for listening though. If you do have any thoughts or comments or want to let us know your teams, do follow us on the socials, or you can comment on the video or however you're listening to this podcast. But follow us on the socials. We're on X at FBBD Pod. We're on Bluesky at Football Breakdown. Feel free to come get involved there. We're trying to get more active on that front. Just thank you all for listening and take it easy. And I will be back in a couple of weeks.